G'day, you beautiful lot, and welcome back to the channel. I'm PommyInOz, so strap yourself in. Round 7. It's served up a buffet of drama, of wins, of statements, and the odd game that was about as fun as watching paint dry. In this video, we're going to have Collingwood flexing their muscle, Carlton giving one of them to the doubters, including me, Gold Coast looking like an actual September contender, and West Coast, well, they just turned up for their fixture. We've got 9 games to rip through, plenty of big calls to make, a few players to roast, and a couple to sing love songs to. Let's crack straight into it, run that intro, and look at these games. First game we're looking at is Melbourne winning 83-63 to the Tigers. The Anzac Eve clash that had a wee bit of spice. Both teams fresh off wins, both sides feeling a little bit cheeky in this year, and early doors Richmond had the D's looking nervy. Only 4 points separated them at half-time, but Melbourne did find a way to get this job done. In the first half, their ball movement was as cold as a meat pie out the freezer, but Goodwin, whatever he said at half-time, it did work. They came out like a team possessed. 6-goal blitz, dominated the midfield, and the Tigers couldn't stem the bleeding. In the end, the D's walked away with a 20-point win, and they did have to work for it, though. That is it. The tactical insights of this game, the half-time workout call. Richmond's pressure first half really made Melbourne look panicky. They kicked backwards, no real territory. After half-time, though, a lot slicker, really attacked the corridor well, and suddenly they looked like the old demons again. The midfield pillars, again, putting that pressure on. Oliver, Gorn, Petrarca, sleepy start really came up, and Viney as well, defensive grit around stoppage. The D's young wingers as well. Lindsay was superb spreading the ground. Langdon did incredibly well as the veteran. And Langford was a real good link-up play. The best players and the impacts in this game. Max Gorn, 25 touches, 34 hit-outs, 9 marks. He was in beast mode. The track dog, 2 goals, 28 touches. Big third term as well. Bowie, 32 touches, launched attacks off half-back all night. Ed Langdon, he slid forward, created havoc when he did. And Stephen May, as always, solid as a rock. The Tigers, Tim Taranto, 2 goals, but he felt a little bit empty for me other than that. He really needs to get in there. Jacob Hopper was electric the first half. He faded. Jack Ross, though, doing what he does, just kind of a real good, solid role player. And Toby Nankervis, as you would expect, even though he got beat, I thought he battled hard. Key moments gone. Tracker and Oliver going full Hulk Hogan after halftime. They brought the game open. Lynch versus May, that was a real good game. Lynch did get some goals, but it was a good old-fashioned duel. Tom Brown, when he came on, very costly with his turnovers, really did hurt Richmond when they did have some ascendancy in that second half. And Pickett, after being held quiet, he got a goal in the third, and that kind of catalysted their break back, their comeback. Melbourne, key takeaway, 2 wins on the bounce. Midfield lifts when it's challenged. Goodwin's men are finally waking up, but can they keep the foot on the gas? Feels like it's always 1 loss away from falling down. Tigers, they're showing spunk, competitive again for 3 quarters, run out of legs. The midfield and obviously the depth of that team is exposed, but plenty to like. Plenty to like. They're learning. No shame here. It's just lessons. Final word, top end save their bacon at Demons. If Gorn misses a game, I think this is a different kettle of fish. They look like they're an injury away from deep trouble. Richmond, kids are all right. They're raw, they're rough, but they've got some ticker. Game 2 then, Pies versus Bombers. 107 to the Pies, 66 to Essendon. And Essendon threw everything at them. They were really hot from the opening bounce. And you did think at times the Bombers could pull off a shock. Keiko slotted an absolute beauty, gave the Demons the lead, and the Dons the lead, but the Pies were officially on notice, and like all good teams, they just powered back into it. Bobby Hill kicked a ripper, Jamie Elliott went berserk, and the Pies slammed that door shut from 4 points down to a big, big comprehensive win. They flexed their premiership muscle, and when the game is there to be won, you know they are going to step up. Tactical insight, the corridor game from quarter 2 to quarter 3 from Essendon was brutal and rewarded. And Collingwood had to adjust. They did really do well here. They really did shift the magnets. They managed to gain that corridor control back. The Pies engine room as well, side bottom Pendlebury, the Dacos boys, just work smarter, not harder, especially when it was a slog. They did really well. And defensive brilliance, no more, but Jeremy Howe was in his vintage form. He was really strong down the back. It's a real asset of Collingwood at the minute that they're like the Swiss Army knife of football. One goes down, they have a player that can play 4 or 5 roles quite aimably. The best players, Steel side bottom, Anzac medal, 15 clearances, 35 touches, elite. Jamie Elliott, 5 goals, multiple score involvements. He was really strong in what was a milestone for him. Josh and Nick, 36 and 31 respectively. They were everywhere. And Jeremy Howe, 12 intercepts, 10 spoils, was an absolute brick wall in defence. Essendon, Zach Merritt, he fought like a warrior in a losing battle. Zach Reed, I thought he was very strong in this game. And Sam Durham, battling all day, scrapping in the middle. He is a real good player. Key moments, Bobby Hill, he was kept quiet by McGrath all day, but then, bang, and that jettisoned him up to the top. Elliott's milestone goal on Anzac Day, he iced the game, really. He really did. His game was spectacular. The crisp game breaker, the smother, the gather, and then the nice setup for Elliott. Footy IQ personified, and Howe's heroics. Every quarter, he was working his ass off, even when they were behind. Real strong performance. The takeaways, Collingwood, after that blip in round 0, which we said it was a blip, still unbeaten, their stars delivered when it counts, and the system stood up without more. Premiership DNA, took a punch, smiled, and punched back harder. Essendon, Durham Reed fought bravely with merit. Corridor usage was really good, but then when it went really sloppy. And they feel like they lack a big game like nous still. Some nice moments, but they got exposed late on. North Melbourne this week, though, they should win that game and get back into contention. When Essendon fired their shot, Collingwood went, is that it? They still have got heart at pies. They're a machine. No sign of slowing down. Fremantle versus Adelaide. We were live for this game. Fremantle 85, Adelaide 67. And this was really a battle of the rising stars. And it didn't disappoint, although it wasn't a great game to watch. For the neutral, it did show Josh Tracy and Thilthorpe showing that they are future AFL forward royalty. But Fremantle's midfield was ruthless, suffocating Adelaide defensively, and really set up a big win. The Dockers were all over the Crows from the opening bounce, blitzing them with 6 first-quarter goals and never really surrendered control. Despite a loose fourth quarter, they were pretty much well in control from start to finish. Not perfect, but very solid. And Fremantle look like they're forcing themselves to click into gear. Tactical insight, the midfield mauling. Sarong, Johnson, Clark, Brayshaw overwhelmed the Crows early and never let up. Adelaide couldn't get first use, and when they did, the pressure was so much, it was just a long bomb to traffic. Defensive gridlock, Pearce, Ryan shut down Adelaide's forward entries, forcing Thilthorpe to really have to pull rabbits out of the hat. Tex Walker was completely blanketed. And Frederick, the wildcard, just roaming across that midfield forward line. He was a masterstroke. He caused chaos and kicked 2 goals of his own. And the red time killers, late goals in quarter 1, quarter 3, really did wrestle momentum back just when you thought Adelaide were getting back into it. Best players in this game, Fremantle, Brayshaw dominated 37 touches, won the medal, was sensational. Sarong, 32, 10 clearances, workhorse. Jordan Clark was massive down back. That tackle on Neil Bullen really personified what Fremantle were about. Alex Pearce blanketed Tex, absolutely convincing. And Frederick, his involvement was just constant threats. Adelaide, Dawson, he tried to drag them back in it, but he got caught probably more than most by Fremantle's web. He really did struggle. He had a lot of the ball, but not much impact. Thilthorpe, 3 goals, huge heart despite the big injury as well. Josh Worrell, I thought he was solid under duress. And Rory Laird, he found the footy, but again, a bit like Dawson, did no damage. Key moments, first quarter pitch, 6 goals to 2. Docks fired, Crows never really looked like recovering. The chase down tackle from Clark, symbolic of what Fremantle were about. Thilthorpe's courage, he returned from that injury early doors to really try and get them back over the line. Great heart from him. And the fourth quarter fade, the big blemish here for Fremantle is they let a 6 goal slip to an 18-point win. It could have been a lot more. So that'll be something to look at. The big takeaways here, Fremantle defensive wall looks good and the big names stand tall. And Josh Tracy looks electric. The lapses at fourth quarter and at the end of the games as well. And especially at red time at times, they have a pulse, but they make it hard for themselves. And a bit like what I said about Brisbane a couple of weeks ago, good teams will find you out if you let the door open too many times. Adelaide, Dawson and Thilthorpe kept fighting till the end. Peatling and Worrell were very strong as well. Forward structure looked a mess this week without Fogarty, and the midfield becomes so predictable under pressure. Crows look a class above the top four at the minute. They will play September though, but they've got to find a way to get the game back on their terms when it gets hard. Brayshaw, Sarong and co grab the game by the scruff of the neck. Tracy and Thilthorpe bookmark that duel every year. It's going to light up our screens for the next decade. Game 4, St Kilda going down to Brisbane 118-73. And this wasn't so much a battle as a lesson in list build differences. Brisbane's superior midfield power, defensive composure, absolutely steamrolled and outgunned the Saints side. Despite a third gutsy turn from the Saints, the Lions were just a class above. And this could have been 100 points. This was absolutely a domination. Brisbane's tactical insight here, the engine room, Neil, the Ashcrofts, Dunkley, McCluggage, battered the Saints at the source and then spread it well. Zorko was his rebounding best. Wilmot, balance between attack and defence, really stopped it. St Kilda, outside of Sinclair and Wanganeen, look like they have no real je ne sais quoi. The Saints' ball movement fell apart under pressure, and the forward threat of Hipwood, he was crucial. He really works well, and it felt like at times Saints didn't have a matchup for him, which is a concern when you've got one of the best defenders in the comp in Cal Wilkie. Who were the players that made an impact on this game? Lockie Neal, 31 touches, 3 goals. Absolute splendid. Back to his best. Will Ashcroft, 35 and 4 clearances. Young workhorse. Hipwood exposed that undermanned Saints defence with his 4 goals. Wilmot, intercepting brilliance, and he was really strong defensively. And Zach Bailey, absolute electric on the spread. Pain in the butt. Took his goals well and was a great link-up. For Saints, Liam Stocker, brave defensively. I think he was targeted at times from his rugged approach by the umpires. That was one of the little bad things from this game. Sinclair, limited offensive impact, but again, finds the ball a lot. Nass, slow start, but I thought he was very strong in this game. And Jack Higgins, 3 goals. He just keeps doing it and kind of needs a little bit of help around him. Key moments, Brisbane kicked 4-6 in the first. Should have killed it at that point, and he continued all game. Saints' third term fight back. They gave them a sniff, but it was extinguished very quickly. That's probably a concern for Ross and his boys. Zach's banana miss would have been goal of the year. And Berry and McCluggage in their defensive roles really slowed them down. The takeaways here, Brisbane's midfield is supreme, and the forward line has so much efficiency. Defensive structure is bulletproof. It's a Rolls Royce at the minute with scary layers. The only thing that needs to click is Charlie Cameron, and I feel like they're complete. They're slowly building nicely. St Kilda, they showed heart and fight, which is one thing. Milwera looks good, and when he moves into the mid, it gives them a POD. But they lack forward potency, and they're too reliant on the same type of players. They're building nicely, but they still miss these key pieces. Key forward, a key defender, and I do feel like they need a point of difference on the wing as well. The difference between polished contender and honest battler was stark here. Saints are on the right track, but Brisbane are already at that destination. Game 5 then, Port versus Roos, 97-88 in Port's favour. And what looked like a 20-goal Port win on paper was a good old-fashioned scrap. The Roos dug in, fought hard, pushed the power all the way, and literally they were really good. They outscored Port across the last 3 quarters. It was the early blitz from Port that caught them shell-shocked, proved just enough to hang on. 4 unanswered goals late in that first quarter. North were brave. It was shaky for Port, but we learned more about North here than we did Port. The tactical insights in this game, Port, the first quarter, they were slick, they were perfect, they were lethal, they blew this game open. North's adjustment, though, shifted to contest, pressure, And massively after quarter time, they forced turnovers. They made it hard. Clangers and 50-metre penalties, both sides in this furnace made errors. Sin, Wine, Aaliyah opened the door for North. And if North could have taken these opportunities, we could be talking about a famous North Melbourne win. The last quarter drama, Lord's crucial goal, despite a block, it gave them breathing room. And this was a heartbreaking defeat in the end for North. Key players and impact from this game, Port Adelaide, Zach Butters, 5 clearances, 27 touches. He was a magician. And Jason Horne-Francis, a lot of fire in that young man's heart. Explosive, 1 goal, 6 clearances. Rosie, creative and slick ball use, but again, didn't really get involved as much as I'd like to. There were a lot of easy touches. I'm looking at him now to really go up the level. Sam Powell-Pepper, that physicality presence. And Ollie Lord, crucial goals when it mattered. North Melbourne, Jerry, he might be on one leg, but he's still the best ruckman in the league. Shizo, classy with the ball off half-back when he went there. In the midfield, I still would like to see him impact the game more. LDU battled hard, got a goal as well. He was strong. Luke Parker, this is what they signed him for. It was a vintage performance in him in his 300th. And Paul Curtis, can't believe he got cited for a tackle that the AFL used as the highlight of the week with Harley Reid. But he is a constant threat. 3 goals. Key moments, that first quarter, 4 unanswered goals, set it up. Pressure game from North. The 50-metre penalties and the goal. The takeaways, Port, win secured. Butters and Jason Horne-Francis are elite. Some brain fades, though, and vulnerable when that pressure reaches the heights. Took the 4 points, but composure's going to be there against these good sides. They would have lost against probably anyone in the top 12. North Melbourne, heart and effort. Young guns stepped up. The older guys stepped up as well. And the forward craft of Zerha, Curtis and co looked good. Still need to find the polish, though, and definitely find ways to start games better. Signs of life, though. Signs of life. The power started like a Ferrari, finished like a Fiesta. The Roos, though, if they can play with that intensity, they'll be all right. Game 6, GWS Bulldogs, 113 to the Dogs, 74 to GWS. 2 quarters, it was an arm wrestle. GWS, they were methodical, they were brave under pressure. But then the second half, the Dogs went into a new gear and GWS stood still. The third quarter, 5 goals, 3 to a point, completely blew this open. And they found extra legs, the Doggies, and just went bananas. They made it hard, and Giants couldn't handle it. A pressure-based win for the Doggies. And GWS, it's a reality check. It seems to be the same method to beat them all the time. Tactical insights, Bulldogs forward line, Lobb, Norton, Karmis. They got some aerial dominance. And I like the fact that Karmis swings both ways and Lobb does in-game. Norton looking really strong, though. Liberatore, Bontempelli, Kennedy and Fraser brutalised that midfield battle. They absolutely dominated in and around the stoppages. And pressure game, their full press suffocated GWS, forcing them wide, forcing them long, creating repeat turnovers. Let's look at the players that impacted the game. Tom Liberatore, he was classic bull mode. 28 touches, 4 tackles. Harmsy, 4 goals in a massive shot off the wing. Ed Richards, 700 metres gain, 27 touches. A constant threat. And Marcus Bontempelli, they shelved him early. That's how much respect they showed GWS. He was dominant, 22 touches, and was surgical with his ball use. GWS, Lockie Whitfield, tough after an early knock, but still did find the ball. Again, needs to impact. Jake Riccardi was a good marking target and took his goal as well. Kelly was overwhelmed, though, by Dogs' pressure. Tim English's goal after half-time, he flipped the momentum and gave them the Dogs like a more catalyst. It started it all. And that third quarter blitz, 5 goals to 1 point, completely crushed the game. James Harms, his goals seemed to come at perfect time, shifting the momentum. Whenever there was a sign of a fight back, it was GG's. The takeaways, midfield at Doggies is hard to beat, and their forward targets, even without Darcy, work so cohesively, and pressure footy makes it hard. They look like 2021 Bulldogs at times. If they keep this style up with the players to come back mid-July, look out. GWS early were impressive, but again, their midfield and forward structure crumbles under pressure. Once that ball can't leave the back half to the midfield, it's game over. Is it panic stations? Not, but it's exposed again that they need to find ways to not be reliant on their impeccable slingshot routine. The Giants, they started like surgeons, they ended like chimney sweeps. The Dogs finished like demolition men. They had their sledgehammers. In the end, demolition beat surgery all the time. Suns, they got a big win, 117-79 to the Swans. And at 50-29 Swans way, you thought the Swans were going to win this. But consecutive goals from the Suns absolutely smashed the Swannies. Clearances were running riot. Everyone there, Rioli, Walter, King, all absolutely outworked, out-hungered, out-tackled the Swan side. And in the end, the Swans looked shell-shocked. Huge reality check for Sydney, but big win for the Suns. Tactical insights, the ruck battle. I thought Witts absolutely dominated. He changed the clearance battle in this game. And Grundy looks old at this minute. The forward pressure, the Suns, they hunt that half-back line. They were under all sorts of pressure in that third. And the spread of Gold Coast. Rao and Anderson, when they got held, Took, Humphrey, Flanders, Rioli, they all can float through there and just make it incredibly hard. Players who stood out, Witts, 28 hits out, 6 clearances, he was strong. Bailey Humphries, 4 goals, 18 touches. King, 5 goals, was a power forward. And Noble and Rioli, absolutely slingshot 101. Sydney, James Robot never stopped competing. He had 20 touches, 8 clearances. And the Warners, flashes of brilliance, but they faded when it counted. Chad looks really out of sorts at the minute, and that is a concern for Sydney. Key moments, Jed Walters' 2 quick salvos. They were massive, literally started it. Witts' fight back, an absolute first use. And the Avalanche, from trailing 20 to leading by 50, they put them in the back seat and drove off with it. The takeaways, Suns, they're a football side. Forward structure clicking, defensive half discipline is elite. Not kids, they're coming, and they're coming for everyone. Swans, it was lazy entitled defensive foot after getting that lead. Clapped structurally. Finals isn't really a question at the minute. It's about really showing this intent. The Bloods don't stand for the Bloods anymore. Final word, 50-29 down. The Suns could have folded, and the old Suns would. Instead, they grew up and tore Sydney apart. Gold Coast, they're coming. Carlton versus Geelong. Carlton getting the 94-76 win. After knocking off North Melbourne and Eagles, everyone was saying they're flat track bullies, but at the G, they were bullies. They absolutely put in a 4-quarter performance and made it incredibly hard for Geelong to get any ascendancy. They were hunting impacts. They made it hard. Geelong, they reacted to this, and a very un-Geelong-like where they're kicking the ball long and had no ball movement. The first half was a real arm wrestle, both sides going for goal, but second and third quarter, the Blues took over, smashing Geelong around the contest. The Blues pulled out nearly a 30-point lead at three-quarter time. A little bit of a fight back, but George Hewitt, Harry Mackay, cool heads, they steadied the ship. Big takeouts from this game. Charlie and Harry, the Twin Towers, when they fire, 6 goals, 20 marks between them, monster in it. Cripps, Walsh, Hewitt, the Holy Trinity. These guys were impeccable, with Cherry being the glue that holds them all together. George Hewitt is in all Australian form. And Carlton's backline stands tall. Silvani and Wheaterin locking down the major guys. Haynes, McGovern, free floating. He looked incredible. 13 marks, with most of them being intercepts. For all the chat people talk about Carlton's star forwards, the backline is holding them in good state. Geelong, Bailey Smith fights a lone battle at times. He was a standout, 29 touches, took a goal. But outside of him, he felt like the only one who was standing up. Geelong lost the disposal count by 67. A real concern. The key tactical takeaways here. Carlton are a defensive pressure threat. When they play with that ferocity and intensity, they're going to be tough to beat. Although their goal-kicking efficiency at times is poor, their ability to be efficient inside 50, the fact that they make it so hard to score against will hold them in good stead. Their ability to get the ruck and the midfield working together, when they get like that, there is so many ways to skin a cat. So the Blues have got so many things. Geelong, so I'm willing to say this is a blip for them. They just got out-monstered and out-pressured. But there will be concerns that when you take away that short ball movement, they don't look as assured as they build themselves out to be. Had some good moments. There was a good fight back. But the way the Blues stifled that was key. Final word, confidence is back. The Blues are humming. Defence is settled. And now the forward line is humming. For Geelong, it's really dust yourselves off and start again. They are an incredible good side. A lot to take out. This has really asked some questions here of both sides, and Carlton had the answers. Carlton have got a big 4 weeks ahead. Geelong obviously have the points in the shed. Hawthorn versus Eagles. Hawthorn got the 4 points, but this one wasn't pretty. Despite dominating on the field and on the stats, the wayward kicking just kept West Coast in it. And a late game did blow it open, but for the large portions of this game, the Eagles were in it. Hawks butchered chances, kicking 2-8 in the first. They did sharpen up in the end. West Coast did flick a switch, closing it to within 34, but when it mattered most, Hawks were too good. A solid win, but so much to work on. Hawthorn's talking points, the inaccuracy, 34 shots says the story. The Hawks were their own worst enemy, missing gettable chances and just allowing the door to stay open for longer. Against the better sides, you can't afford to do this. The Eagles, it's better, but it's still not good enough. This was one of their best efforts of the year, but still poor. They did get the ball inside 50, but the defence looks a sitting duck. Harley Reid had bursts, Gimby battled hard, but when you lose by 50 and it's a good day, it says it all. Some of the key takeouts in this game, Maribel Cho is becoming a real big target, but his goal kicking needs to be better. They need someone around him. Mitchell, he rolled the dice. Sicily, again, being deployed forward. Warple, they were rotated with Weddle in the midfield, and even Barras went forward. You've got to be flexible, and it's good to see this. West Coast, no run. No run. They jogged at times instead of creating options. It looks very safe. It's getting better, but they need to apply themselves. Diwa looks fantastic at times, though. He really gets into it. But this game, he was really lost at times. He really did go missing. He needs to be in that forward line. He's the point of difference. But massive respect. They did try. They had to go to Tasmania. Fair play to them. Some takeouts of this game, the ruck battle, it was one-way traffic. Meek is dominant. If he gets that kind of ascendancy and they can control the corridor, you've got problems. Sicily started horridly, but did look better in the third quarter. He's had like 6 of the worst quarters you've ever seen. Jack Gunston wound back the clock. Harley Reid, he had moments of magic. A professional win in the final word. They dominated the Territory Hawks. They didn't execute, but they banked the points. For West Coast, it's baby steps. Get better, and everything should be all right in 2 to 3 years. There you have it, round 7 done and dusted. Some clubs are flying, some are coughing up lungs at this stage. Carlton, is the dream still alive? West Coast, their dreams in 2028. And Gold Coast fans, hey, September might be something to do, isn't it? If you enjoyed it, smash that like button, smash the subscribe. I'll see you tonight on Footy Abroad. Catch you legends next time. Peace.